Welcome back to Morning Joe, top of the hour. Ian Bremmer and Michael Steele still with us. And join the table, presidential historian and history professor at Rice University, Douglas Brinkley. He's the co-editor of the book, The Nixon Tapes, and it's great to have you back.
Douglas, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. What are you working on right now?
I am doing a book called Rightful Heritage on Franklin D. Roosevelt in the 1930s and 40s, and the deforestation and the Dust Bowl that occurred and what the federal government did to arrest it, mainly planting of 2 billion trees with the Civilian Conservation Corps across America. And then it's just on the birth of our modern wildlife refuge system.
So he's really not doing anything.
Doing nothing. You just see where he's...
I'm working hard on FDR.
Hasn't
you can't beat
anybody
FDR.
ever told you that idle hands or what is that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I have been sick for the last 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
I actually, and I never am in front of a TV. It's one of the great ironies, except when I'm on. But I saw Ken Burns' documentary, The Roosevelts, again.
Yeah.
And it is the second time. It is remarkable what those two men did.
Nothing like them. And when you look at what Franklin, we're talking about executive orders with Barack Obama, the numbers are so small. FDR did over 3,000 executive orders. I mean, one after another. It was a different America. I mean, I've been writing about like a woman suddenly wants to save 1 million acres of the California desert and finagles a meeting with FDR. Okay, I'll do it. And she's even warning him, well, what about the train companies own some of that and mining claims? He goes, well, lawyers can fix that.
Yeah.
That sense of just grandiosity of FDR and Theodore Roosevelt and their great Americanism. They just are, to me, represent the spirit of the country.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, let's bring it to today, where Americans' views on the economy are improving. And it appears President Obama is getting a little bit of the credit here. According to a new Pew poll, 27% of Americans say the economy is excellent or good. That's up 11 points from a year ago, and twice as many as last year are optimistic about its outlook. And for the first time in 5 years, Americans say the president's policies have made the economy stronger rather than weaker. But a stark reality remains for many Americans. More than half say they're falling behind in the cost of living. And as the president's State of the Union approaches, Pew mapped his approval ratings compared to other presidents. He is nearly on par with Reagan at this point and below Clinton, but above George W. Bush.
Willie, guys, we've been following, obviously, daily the president's approval ratings over the past 6-7 years, and certainly America's attitudes. Things do seem to be, we have noticed an upswing, haven't we, over the past 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, we commented, I think it was that his floor was at 40%, which was pretty good considering how bad things felt like they were going for a while. So now when you see some economic progress, it comes up. But Doug, it does raise the question. We feel better. The unemployment number is better, but it's also that a lot of people have dropped out of the workforce. Wages have stagnated. Presidents probably always get more credit than they deserve, more blame than they deserve for things that happen beyond their control. But what about President Obama? Where, if we get, let's say, 2 years from now and he's in the presidency, if things stay the way they are right now, how will he begin to be viewed based on this economy?
I think if they stay the way they are right now, he'll be seen as a very good president, not a great one. And I say that because the Great Recession had crashed the country out. And if he could say unemployment stays at 5.5% and Wall Street's at an all-time high, even though the middle class is still suffering, even though there are going to be a lot of historians that will say he didn't do this right or that right, there's a credible argument that he got us out of the ditch and got us up and running again. The problem with that is who knows what it's going to look like 2 years from now. And conversely, if this economy does badly, Obama's presidency will not get high marks. So it's very hinged on the economic record. On the day he leaves office, those numbers will freeze, and that's what he's going to live with.
I understand that economics is what's driving perceptions of President Obama on a day-to-day basis right now. But I mean, if you think out in 5 and 10 and 20 years' time in Obama's legacy, do you think it's just as much a question of how the economy looks when he leaves as opposed to come in, or is there going to be much more of America's role in the world, where I think a lot of people are asking more questions about almost an existential issue of what the U.S. stands for?
Well, absolutely. But look, let me pick just one thing, climate change. This is a president that on two two of his, he'll mention it again on this State of the Union, but on both inaugurals, he added a huge paragraph about climate. You're looking at the Keystone debate going on right now. He is very worried about climate being an issue 50 years from now. And if he can't solve it, he wants to be seen as somebody who's educating the public about the need for a new kind of energy grid. A group of historians, myself included, meet with the president once in a while, and one of his frustrations early on is if we needed a moonshot today, he thought it would be a new energy grid. That we don't have that new energy grid right now. And in foreign affairs, it's going to be a mixed record. I mean, the red line in the sand in Syria was disastrous. The drone strikes. Sure, he's going to be seen as the drone president, but the Middle East is always a tinderbox. There's always going to be dislocation and problems going on there. So it's going to be hard, I think, to blame him for everything going on in the Middle East, like some of the Republicans want to do today. I don't know who can handle the situation going on in Syria, for example.
But he does have, though. He is going to have foreign policy issues. We look back at presidents, you talk about how their legacies are locked in. It's also fascinating, you look at presidents who have left. Ronald Reagan will be remembered for a couple of things, but foreign policy in equal doses with domestic policy. Jimmy Carter, of course, was framed by foreign policy challenge with the rise of Iran. But Barack Obama, I think the verdict is still out. Is he going to be seen as an economic president? Or is he going to be seen as somebody that misread Putin and Russia, misread ISIS, misread Gaddafi, misread a lot of things?
Well, but conversely, killed Osama bin Laden, got America boots, so soldiers out of war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
But even that, especially with Iraq, though, especially with Iraq.
Well, it is. But
he was, when you have, and I'm certainly not striking a case against him. I'm just saying there's going to be a fascinating debate because when you have in 2012 2 or 3 things that his Republican opponent specifically said he got wrong, and then a year or 2 later on Russia, on ISIS, and getting out of Iraq, he's proven to be wrong.
But just take something like Putin. It's unclear. Are the sanctions working? Maybe they are. Nobody seems to want to invest in Russia right now. So what may have seemed to be weakness at the start in history might be seen as a bit of strength that the Russian economy collapsed. The deal the president got with was basically Cuba saying, we don't want to deal with Russia anymore. They're not going to be able to fund us anymore. And nobody wants to put money into that country right now. So the president may have had a measured response to Putin.
We shall see.
All right, now to France, where police may